How many times, looking at your bank account or facing an unexpected expense, have you whispered to yourself, "If only I had more money, all my problems would disappear"? Be honest, we have all done it. We believe money is the magic key to unlocking a life of peace, joy, and absolute freedom. Money makes the world go round. We use it every day, and our lives, in a way or another, gravitate around its invisible gravity. We buy food, pay rent, we exchange it for our sweat and our time. For some, it's the engine of creativity. For others, a means transformed into an end, becoming the source of a toxic envy that wears down the soul. But there is a secret, a paradox deeply rooted in human psychology that no one teaches you in school. And it's this: the moment you obtain the wealth you dream of so much is often the moment true happiness begins to slip through your fingers. Are those who have more truly happier? Or are we all running on a treadmill that leads nowhere? Today, we will explore why our conception of money is fundamentally wrong, what science really says about happiness, and how you can stop chasing an illusion to start truly living. Stay with me until the end, because the final study I will show you will radically change the way you look at your wallet. To understand our toxic relationship with money, we first must understand what it is, or rather, what it isn't. The concept of money itself is ancient. Thousands of years ago, our ancestors used shells, salt, and then precious metals. In the beginning, currency had an intrinsic value, dictated by the material scarcity of gold and silver. But there was a problem. It was difficult to travel with sacks of gold, and even harder to prevent counterfeiting. So society took a leap of faith. We replaced metals with paper, and today with numbers on a digital screen. Think about it for a second. Today, money is a pure, absolute symbol. If you have a €50 or $50 bill in your pocket, technically you are holding a simple, useless piece of paper. But you, I, and the barista on the corner give it value. It has purchasing power only because we share a collective hallucination. As the historian Yuval Noah Harari brilliantly explained, money is the most universal and most efficient system of mutual trust ever invented. The magic works only if the entire community accepts this convention. If you landed on a deserted island inhabited by uncontacted tribe and offered them a briefcase with $1 million in cash in exchange for food, they would laugh in your face. To them, they would just be excellent pieces of paper to start a fire and keep warm at night. It has no value in itself. It is the human agreement that grants it. And yet, despite being just an abstraction, we are completely obsessed with it. We accumulate as much of it as possible, often destroying our planet, trampling our relationships, and compromising our mental health. Modern consumer society has certainly pressed the accelerator on this dynamic, convincing us that you are what you buy. But beware, greed and the obsession with possession are not inventions of Instagram or modern capitalism. Since antiquity, the love for luxury has been the cause of wars, inequalities, and violence. We human beings are not biologically programmed to handle abundance. In our evolutionary past, finding sugar or resources meant survival. Today, this instinct translates into an insatiable hunger for zeros. in our bank account. Greed feeds on itself. It acts on our primal instincts, clouds our reason, and puts blinders on us, making us see only ourselves and the next financial milestone. With money, as we know, you can buy almost anything. A villa with an infinity pool, the latest German sports car, first-class trip to exotic destinations, dinners in Michelin-starred restaurants. There is a cynical saying that goes, everyone has their price. And it's often true. We can buy not only goods, but also people's time, skills, and sometimes their integrity. All this generates an undeniable rush of dopamine. It gives us the feeling of invincibility, an apparent happiness. But there is a catch, and it's a huge one. Like any joy procured by an addiction, it is ephemeral. It requires increasingly massive doses to take effect. In the 1970s, psychologists Philip Brickman and Donald T. Campbell, and later Michael Eysenck, coined a perfect term for this phenomenon: the hedonic treadmill. The concept is ruthless in its simplicity. No matter how great your financial success is or what new material good you manage to buy, your mind will quickly adapt to that new reality, and your happiness level will return exactly to its starting point. Remember the insane excitement when you bought your first car or your first brand new smartphone. For the first weeks, you cleaned it every day. You treated it like a jewel. 6 months later, it's just an object, full of crumbs and scratches, having become part of boring normality. It no longer provokes any emotion. And it doesn't matter if that car is an old beater or a $300,000 Ferrari. The psychological mechanism of adaptation is identical. We keep running, increasing the speed, exhausting ourselves without realizing that we aren't moving an inch. The modern tragedy is that we perpetuate this cycle. We look for that something extra, convinced that the next purchase will be the definitive one. Instead, this blind race pushes us farther away from the true source of serenity. At this point, you might tell me, yes, philosophically it's all well and good, but I'd rather cry in a Porsche than on a bicycle. It's a funny joke, but science has deeply investigated this statement. Is it true that money doesn't buy happiness? False. Money does buy happiness. But there is a massive but. It only does up to a certain point. Yuval Noah Harari himself explained that an interesting conclusion is that money does indeed bring happiness, but only up to a point, and beyond that point it has little significance. And it's not just historical theory. A famous study conducted by Nobel laureates Daniel Kahneman and Angus Deaton at Princeton University quantified this threshold. The researchers discovered that daily emotional well-being increases in tandem with income. But it completely flattens out when it reaches the figure that comfortably covers basic needs, which in the American study was estimated around $75,000 a year. What does it mean in your real life? It means that if you earn €1,000 a month and struggle to pay the bills or buy healthy foods, receiving a raise that brings you to €3,000 a month will drastically change your happiness for the better. You will eliminate the anxiety of survival. You will have a safe roof for medical care and dignity for yourself and your loved ones. But if you already earn €10,000 a month, jumping to 20,000 or 30,000 won't make you twice or 3 times as happy. quite the opposite. It often brings diametrically opposed effects. If to get the excess of money you have to sacrifice your life, work 15 hours a day, neglect your mental health, not see your kids grow up, or lose touch with the ones you love, your happiness will take a nosedive. As the Stoic philosopher Seneca lucidly said, money has never made any man rich. On the contrary, it has infected everyone with a more intense lust for it. This fictitious and stressful world we inhabit stems from a serious semantic and cognitive error. We have started calling necessities what are just desires. You have convinced yourself that owning the latest smartphone model is a necessity to work well, that having a huge house is a necessity to be respected by society, that wearing designer clothes is a necessity to feel adequate. We completely forget the actual utility of things. What is the intrinsic purpose of a car? To transport you safely from point A to point B. End of the story. Everything else, the heated leather seats, the logo on the hood, the roaring engine, is a superstructure we have created for ourselves. Public transport or a used car fulfills the exact same necessity. The same goes for food. If the primary function of eating is to nourish ourselves and gives us energy from a purely survival standpoint, there is no difference between a plate of beans and caviar. Sure, the taste and nutritional intake vary, but the fatal error is believing that being able to always eat caviar is a necessary condition for a happy life. Much of this confusion comes from social comparison. Social media is the perfect poison for this. We look at our acquaintance on Instagram in their villa and we instinctively make the mistake of measuring their happiness by the square footage of their house. Consequently, we alter our life goals to chase that very same illusion. The author Paul Miller made a sharp observation that we should remember. The more we associate money with life, the more we convince ourselves that we are too poor to buy our freedom. We are the most intelligent species on the planet. We were born free, yet we have deliberately decided to lock ourselves in a prison built entirely of scrap paper. So if making it big in business and accumulating millions isn't the answer, where is this happiness found? I promised you at the beginning, and here is the study that changes every perspective. It's the Harvard study of adult development. We are not talking about an internet poll, but the longest and most in-depth study on human happiness ever conducted in the history of science. It began in 1938, following the lives of hundreds of men and later their families for over 80 years, tracking their health, income, work, and emotions. Do you want to know what the irrefutable conclusion was, repeated by the director of the study, psychiatrist Robert Baldinger? It wasn't money. It wasn't fame. It wasn't low cholesterol or hard work. The fundamental discovery was this: good relationships keeps us happier and healthier. Period. Living immersed in a loving family, feeling like an integral part of a community, laughing with colleagues, having a true friend to call at 3 a.m. if you're sick, or volunteering your time. These are the things that produce deep, protective, and long-term neurochemical happiness. A happiness that beats any corporate promotion 100 to 0. We are selfish beings by nature, but we are social animals by evolution. This means our brain is literally wired to find fulfillment in connection with others. Rejecting this biological fact to chase money in isolation is spiritual suicide. Compulsive hoarding only generates a pathological fear of losing what you have accumulated. It breeds anxiety, insecurities, and paranoia. Exactly the opposite of the peace of mind you thought you were buying when you started stashing away your first nest egg. So, we reach the final point. Is money absolutely evil? Absolutely not. Money is an extraordinary tool. It allows you to explore the world, take care of your health, guarantee an education for your children, and have a safety net against the unexpected. The problem arises when we confuse the need with the hand, when the hammer becomes more important than the house you are trying to build. Take a minute today, stop, step off the hedonic treadmill for a moment and ask yourself honestly, why did I get on it in the first place? Start decluttering not just your objects, but your desires. Stop prioritizing goals that were forced upon you by marketing or by envy of your neighbor. Happiness, ultimately, is a terribly simple matter. It requires time, awareness, and the right people to share it with. And the good news? None of these three things are for sale on Amazon. What do you think? What is a purchase you have made in your life that gave you the most lasting joy, compared to one that disappointed you the most? Let me know down in the comments. I always read and reply to everyone. If this video gave you a different perspective, or if this simply made you think, subscribe to Luminal Thinking and turn on the notification bell. We are building a community of curious minds who doesn't settle for society's prepackaged answers. Always remember to think beyond the boundary. I'll see you in the next video.